Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Happy Me Masterclass for Unshakable Joy, living your best life despite having circumstances. And today we have a very special guest speaker who will share about a topic that a lot of people suffer: chronic illness and chronic pain. So, Katie is a health coach working with people with chronic pain and chronic illness. And she worked with individuals to reclaim their identity and thrive beyond survival mode. She specialized in guiding people through transformative journeys and help them discover or rediscover and re engage in life outside your condition. She is also the host of the podcast My Chronic Illness and Me and holds space for insightful conversations with people dealing with chronic illness and pain in our order to offer support and foster a sense of community amidst what is often an incredibly isolating experience. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Katie Donlevie. Thanks, Katie, for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kelly. I'm so excited to be here and to talk to you guys about, how to use your energy in a different way when you have chronic illness. As you mentioned, it's something that can often be extremely isolating and extremely overwhelming. So today we're going to talk about how to shift your energy when you have a chronic condition. And create a tool that you can use in your everyday life to, in the moment when you're feeling really overwhelmed or like you have no energy, how to use this tool that I'm going to show you today to shift in the moment. So hopefully it'll be interesting and insightful, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you. Really looking forward to learn.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to start by sharing my screen.
Thank you, Catherine, for joining us live.
Thanks for letting me in.
Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Looks like it's still loading for me.
Okay.
I see it now.
Do you see the presentation?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, for some reason, I can no longer see you guys. So if you have a question or want me to pause or anything like that, just say something, because I can't see you if you like wave a hand or something.
Got it.
Sound good?
Yes, there's also a raise your hand icon on the top next to react and a Q&A and chat. So you can type it in, and then at some point I'm gonna check in with Katie, and or vice versa. Katie can ask us if there's anything, and then I can call that person or read it out loud.
Okay,
that cool?
Awesome. Yep, that sounds great.
Thank you. Sweet.
Okay, so I just wanted us to start by quick introducing ourselves. So I can share a little bit about me in a moment, but I'm Katie, and I'm in Washington, D.C. Kelly, do you mind sharing about yourself just a little bit?
Happy to. So I'm Kelly Sabas. I am the curator here at happyme.yoga, and today we are doing a series as part of a mental health masterclass that we're doing for the whole month of May, and also extended it till June just because there are other topics that are really relevant and important to be, you know, to hold space for and have that conversation. So today, Katie is our expert. I'm so honored to have you, Katie, and thank you for, starting this conversation with me and doing a masterclass. So instead of doing one, we have 7 topics. How's
That's
that?
so great. Yeah, that's
Yes.
amazing. I'm so glad that our initial conversation sprouted into this beautiful, like month and a half long series that you've
Yeah,
created.
that's the beauty of collaboration. And we are connecting this with having the Unshakable Joy, which is the title of the series, despite life circumstances. So as obviously today's topic is about chronic illness. So that's how it's related.
Great. And then Catherine, would you mind sharing a little bit about you?
Sure. Yeah, my name's Catherine. Also in DC. I follow Katie's podcast and saw a promotion on that channel, and it seemed I had a very draining Memorial Day weekend, so this seemed very topical and very timely. So excited to learn, especially because I
Awesome.
did not know there's 7 levels of energy. This is all news to me.
Thanks so much for showing up. That's amazing.
Sure.
I really appreciate it. Okay, so in this workshop, I will share a little bit about me, and then we're really going to dive into the content. So I'll share with you guys about the 7 levels of energy. I'll teach you a little bit about the 2 different kinds of energy, which are anabolic and catabolic, and then we'll dive into what the 7 different levels of energy mean, how they show up in our day-to-day lives, how we might utilize them in different contexts, what the pros and cons are of each level, and then we're going to talk about how our condition, or depending on why you're joining us today, we'll talk about, if there's a certain situation in your life where you feel drained or chronically stressed about, we'll talk about what level of energy you feel like you're actually showing up with, mainly around that topic. And then we're going to do an exercise to shift it. And then we'll talk about how you can use that exercise in your day-to-day life to change and shift your energy in the moment whenever you need to. Any questions as we get started about the overall structure?
Oh, good.
All right. Okay, so we did a little bit already about who we each are. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to ask you to just take a moment and think about, so if you have a chronic condition, you don't have to share what it is if you don't want to. You are more than welcome to if you are comfortable. So if you have a chronic condition, I'll ask you to keep that in your mind as we have this conversation. If you don't, that's totally fine. But I would ask you to think of a situation in your life that has been really affecting you from a stress perspective, like something that's really stressing you out on a regular basis for a good amount of time now, that you regularly feel drained about or feel takes away from your, let's say, positive energy. Do you each have something in mind that you can sort of use? Because again, the main thrust of this workshop is an exercise.
Definitely.
Okay, Catherine, it sounds like you have something. Kelly, is there something that you can have in mind?
Not right now. Is sleep part of that? Like maybe having
Sure.
more. Okay, yeah, maybe that's one.
Sure. Would that be like, if you're comfortable sharing, that you are stressed about not having enough sleep and that's very draining to you?
Honestly, I feel like I could use more sleep, but my energy's fine as it is. I mean, maybe I'm naturally like this, like high on energy, but I just wish I could sleep, more.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, great. And then Catherine, are you comfortable sharing yours?
Well, mine was very similar. I've never been like diagnosed with insomnia, but it's just a constant stressor, like getting enough sleep, can't sleep because you're stressed about it, like, worrying about the future things that you have to be awake, be on your top of your game for. Are you going to be able to do it? Are you going to have the capacity? It's just a real kind of ongoing stressor in my life, waxes and wanes, but kind of ever present.
Yeah, okay, great. That makes complete sense. And thank you for being comfortable sharing that with us. I think that's an amazing example for both of you, and absolutely something that we can work with through this exercise today. Okay, so let me share a little bit about me. I am here in Washington, D.C. I am a coach for people, as Kelly introduced me, who have chronic pain and chronic illness conditions, but that was not always the case. I used to be in the nonprofit sector here in D.C. I had a very high stress, high activity, lots of responsibilities job for about a decade in the national nonprofit sector here. And I also was dealing with tons of health issues. I was constantly in pain. I didn't know what was going on with me. I spent over a decade going to dozens and dozens of different doctors trying to figure out what was wrong. And I spent thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours in doctors' offices only to hear over and over and over again, oh, don't worry, we'll fix you, we'll figure out what's wrong. And then when tests would come back negative, I would hear, oh, there's nothing wrong with you, you're fine. I wasn't fine. And I spent, like I said, over a decade really scrambling to figure out what it was going on with me. But at the same time, I was still living my life. I was young. I was in my 20s. I was going out with friends, going on dates, having relationships and getting promoted in my career. And so I kind of tamped down all of the pain I was feeling because I didn't have an answer about what it was. And so I didn't know how to fix it. All of this kind of came to a head in the couple years before 2020, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And I would literally go to work, seem totally fine. I would have, full face of makeup and professional clothing, and I would, kick ass at my job. And then I would come home and I would put on my pajamas and cry. I was just in so much pain and misery all the time. So I started working with a health coach, and this was before I had a diagnosis, to figure out how I could stop just white knuckling every single day, because that's what I felt like. I felt like I was just getting through every day. I wasn't, thriving. I was just surviving. And so then in 2020, thanks in large part to the work I did with my health coach, I had a surgery. I was diagnosed with endometriosis. And from that point on, I completely changed my life. My health coach and I worked together to figure out what I actually needed and wanted from life, what was working for me and what wasn't in terms of my career and my schedule, et cetera, et cetera. And so now I do the same for others. She was so meaningful to me and helped me completely shift my entire perspective on what life should and could be, that I overhauled my career, and I'm now a health coach working with others to help them do the same thing. And as Kelly mentioned at the beginning, I also now have a podcast called My Chronic Illness and Me. And that's because I really want to, in addition to helping people one-on-one through health coaching, I really want to help foster a sense of community amongst the chronic illness community. It's something that can be so isolating. I know for me, now, I think when people say the word endometriosis, some people have a sense of what that is. But, 15 years ago, that wasn't the case. And as a young 20-year-old in my 20s, I just felt so isolated. I constantly felt like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just have a normal life like all my friends do? And so creating community and helping people feel less alone and more seen is really super important to me. So that's my story, and I hope that background is helpful for people. And I hope that if you're someone who's feeling isolated, or like you're trying to figure stuff out completely on your own, I hope that you reach out to me or check out the podcast, because again, you're not alone.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's dive into energy. So, have either of you heard of anabolic or catabolic energy?
No.
Okay, great. So there are two different kinds of energy, and they're called anabolic and catabolic. Anabolic energy is a lifting up energy. It's constructive and it builds. It releases hormones in our body like endorphins and dopamine. So Kelly, can I ask for your assistance with something real quick?
Sure.
Okay, great. Can you tell me, like, 3 or 4 sentences about something you absolutely love, that you're really excited about, that you love to do?
Ooh, easy. I love doing yoga. I love to travel. I love meeting new people, trying new things like food and adventure. So, that 4.
Awesome. And how did you feel in your body when you were talking about those things?
Really happy. Happy chemicals coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, I can actually, it's funny, I can't see your face, but I can hear the smile in your voice. Like, I can actively hear that those things bring you energy.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to talk about catabolic energy, which is sort of a destructive and draining kind of energy. So I want to be clear that neither of these energies are good or bad, or, evil, or, ultimately have any sort of moral connection to them, but they are very different in terms of what they bring to us. So Kelly, can you take 2 fingers, and can you see me?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can see you.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and stick them in your ribs hard, if you don't mind, for just a moment, and tell me 3 more sentences about why you love to meet new people.
I love meeting new people because I love listening or hearing what they're up to and what they like, and find that connection, I guess, that community. And I think at the end of it, it's like connecting with other people is really important to me.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. You can stop.
And I'm done. Okay.
So can you share with us what you felt in your body during that time?
It was uncomfortable. Yeah.
I could hear
And it distracts me from thinking or constructing my thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, I could hear that you kind of you slowed down a little, and you seemed a little distracted, and I could still tell that you were genuinely, excited about the things that you're talking about, but that there was like something else going on.
Yeah.
So that's catabolic energy. So anabolic energy brings us this almost like snowball effect of just like, we're excited, we're excited, we're excited. Anabolic energy builds on itself. Like, think of a cartoon snowball rolling down the hill and just gaining and gaining and gaining, right? Catabolic energy, again, it's not bad, but it does distract us. It's like the finger in the ribs. So it doesn't mean that you can't still be excited about things. It doesn't mean that you can't still genuinely care and be happy and all of that. It does mean that there is something that's pulling your focus away from those anabolic things. So chronic conditions are often things that give us catabolic energy. They release chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol into our body, and they are associated with fear, judgment, and stress. And so the more catabolic energy you have around a certain situation, the more fear, judgment, and stress you're going to experience, and the less you're going to be able to fully embrace those anabolic things that you have in your life, because there's the constant like distraction, draining, finger in the ribs thing that's drawing your focus away from the anabolic things. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Any questions about anabolic or catabolic energy so far?
Okay. It's clear to me.
Okay.
Catherine, do you have any thoughts?
No, the analogy really worked for me. I think reading that I was a little confused, but that makes it a lot clearer.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the 7 levels of energy. So if you think of energy as a big umbrella, right, there's 2 kinds. There's the anabolic and catabolic, which we just talked about. And then there are 7 levels of energy. Now we're going to go through this. It's going to take a couple minutes so you guys can really get a sense of these different levels of energy, because then our exercise is going to be using these 7 levels and applying them to the condition that we brought to this workshop. So levels 1 and 2 are associated primarily with catabolic energy, and levels 3 through 7 are associated primarily with anabolic energy. If you can see on this energetic self-perception chart, you want to kind of think of the 7 levels of energy as a continuum. So where 1 is like the lowest level of consciousness and 7 is the highest level of consciousness. Now, I want to be clear that, again, none of the levels are bad or good. It's just that they bring us different things. And the higher level of consciousness we have, the more anabolic energy we have. Everybody in the world has all 7 levels of energy present in them and is able to tap into all 7 levels of energy. But we all kind of naturally, based on where we are in our lives, what our circumstances are, what our past has been like, have these different levels in a combination within us that we kind of bring to bear in any situation. So, for example, I might bring a mix of levels 3 and 4 to a situation where somebody else might bring a mixture of 4 and 5, or I might bring a mixture of levels 1 and 3 to a situation where another person might bring levels 4 and 6. Basically, we all have these 7 levels present, and based on our own personal history, circumstances, these levels show up for us in different combinations in different circumstances. Does that make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
It does. I mean, is this something that's just for a person like in a day, by the hour? Generally, is there like a lot of fluctuations between the levels?
That's a great question. Yes and no. I think different situations can really bring different levels of energy within one person within one day. So, for example, if 1 hour I was skiing in the Alps and then the next hour I broke my leg, right? Those would be very different levels of energy that I would be experiencing in a short time frame. But in general, people kind of have a level or 2 levels really where they resonate. And actually, there's a great assessment I do with my clients where it's what are your kind of like baseline energy levels when you're not stressed? And then what is your stress response? Because we all have things that stress us out day to day, right? And when we have an energetic stress response, almost everybody drops down into levels 1 and 2. And so it's thinking about how do you kind of bring yourself out of that stress response? And then also, how are you increasing your baseline levels? So for example, when I first took the assessment, I think core levels that I was like generally resonating at as a whole were, I think, like 3 and 4. And then I took the assessment after doing coaching for several months, and I was resonating at like a 4 and 5 much more regularly. So does that make sense? Like anyone can have anything, and like stress for everybody brings in the 1 and 2, but it's about how you can kind of raise your level of consciousness more regularly without stress, and then how when you are in stress, you can bring yourself out of it more easily.
Got it. Thanks.
This makes me wonder or think about those people who were always angry or stressed or tired. What can you advise for them?
Yeah, that's kind of like what we're going to go through in this exercise. Like if you are someone who is regularly resonating at a level 2, you're going to feel angry a lot of the time. And I'll talk about why. You're going to feel resentful, you're going to feel combative. And it's funny, like if that's for example, if someone did this assessment and got a level 2 as their like resonating energy most of the time, they'd probably feel angry about that, right? Because they feel angry about a lot of things. So it's about how you shift it. And I'm going to give you guys a tool today to sort of do that in the moment. And then the deeper work of what I do with people with coaching is how to really make that over time, like a deep-seated shift that you can choose. So if you notice yourself feeling angry about something, you can actually say, oh, wow, is this serving me right now? Is this how I want to feel right now? I'm actually going to choose a different level of energy right now. Or maybe I'm choosing to feel angry about this because that is what's serving me. It's all about being conscious of what you're doing rather than just falling into one of these energy levels by default and not being aware of it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and that's a great question, Kelly. Like the thing to keep in mind throughout this is that awareness is the key. None of these levels are good or bad. It's whether you're in them because you're just in them and because you're kind of like blowing in the wind with your emotions, or whether you're in them because you're choosing to be in them because they serve you for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about level 1. So level 1 is a catabolic level where it's a very victim mindset. Your core thought is that you don't have any power to control the situation. You feel a lot of lethargy. You don't feel like you can move anything forward. You really are just sort of like sitting there like, well, I can't do anything about this. There's nothing I can do to control this situation. So level 1 has some advantages and some pretty clear disadvantages, right? Disadvantages are that you feel like you don't have any power to do anything, and therefore you don't do anything. So people who resonate with a lot of level 1 energy basically just constantly feel like a victim and don't do anything to shift their situation, to change what's going on around them. Now, level 1 does actually have some benefits. If you choose to be in level 1, it can be a sort of restorative level. So the way I think about the possible upsides of level 1 are that, like after my surgery, my first surgery, for example, I think of it as like my cocooning phase, where I kind of like needed all I needed and wanted was rest, and I didn't have any creative thought. Like I just needed to like protect and rest and be in like a cocoon. And that was beneficial to me at that time. But let's say prior to my cocooning phase, when I was in like before surgery, I was in level 1 a lot, not choosing level 1. I was in level 1 because I constantly felt like, oh my God, this is just my situation. I'm in pain all the time. This is my life. I can't do anything about it. And that brought me so much stress, so much lack of energy, so much sadness. And that was a real disadvantage to me and my health. Does that make sense so far?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Level 2 is categorized as conflict. So if you're in level 2, your core thoughts are judgment and like I said, conflict. Your core feeling is anger. Like you are really angry a lot of the time in level 2. And your sort of action or result is defiance. Like you're in fight mode. Basically, think of those people you know that are just like angry. Kelly, like you said, like those people who are just angry all the time. I feel like we all know someone like that. So disadvantages of that, again, it's a catabolic energy level. So it brings a ton of stress. It brings a ton of judgment. If you're constantly angry, it's not healthy for you over time. That's not a sustainable way to live your life. And over time, you'll feel a lot of like impact from that, right? From being constantly angry. Some potential advantages of level 2 are that anger can be a catalyst to action, right? Like if you're angry about something, then maybe you will want to do something to change it. So it's possible to choose to use level 2 as a way to sort of like catapult you into action. But again, if you're in level 2, oops, sorry, one sec, my computer's not plugged in. Let me make sure I do that before it. Okay, sorry about that. If you're in level 2 without choosing it, then you're really, really, really detracting from your well-being, because you're just constantly having that cortisol and like fight or flight mode. Okay, so level 3 is the first level of anabolic energy, but it's very mild anabolic. Level 3 I think of as kind of like just head down, just get through it. There's sort of like the core thought is owning what you're thinking and having responsibility for what you're thinking. So it's not the same victim energy as level 1, but there is also just a like, all right, let's just like, this just is what it is kind of a reaction. So the benefits of that, right, are that it is anabolic, like you are actually moving forward, you're aware of your choices, you're aware of your thoughts, and you're moving, right? There's actually steps happening. But the disadvantages of level 3 are sort of like you can get stuck in like well, this isn't good or bad, it just is what it is. I guess the situation just is this. And so what happens at level 3 is you can kind of cover up your level 1 and 2 energy about a situation because you're just trying to get through it. Sometimes I think of someone in like a mediocre relationship as in being level 3, like, all right, like this isn't ideal, but it's not terrible. So I guess I'm just in it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Okay, questions about 1, 2, or 3 so far?
No.
Okay. Level 4 is categorized by care and concern for others. So if you resonate at a level 4, you are very passionate and compassionate about serving other people. You tend to put others first. You're very genuinely caring. And this is obviously can have great advantages, right? Like you're a caring person, you do acts of service, but it can also have disadvantages in that often you can put other people's needs in front of your own, and that can often lead to burnout, and that burnout can kind of cause you to drop down into the more catabolic levels of energy. So like if you're constantly serving others, that's anabolic, right? For people who resonate with level 4, serving others brings them energy. But often if you do that to such a high degree, then you get burnt out, and then you start feeling those levels 1 and 2, like victimhood and anger. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Level 5 is all about opportunity. So people who resonate with level 5, think of this is like a high, like moderate to high anabolic level of energy. And a lot of really great thinkers and leaders really resonate with level 5. You feel a lot of peace. You feel a lot of acceptance and connection with people, and you kind of see opportunities everywhere. So the real advantage of level 5 is that, again, you constantly see opportunities. So you could look at any situation and see, I like to think of this level as like a win-win level.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at an opportunity and you see the win-win for everybody. So that's an amazing advantage, right? Like if you can resonate at level 5, you're constantly seeing potential in things. One possible disadvantage of level 5 is that there's sometimes like decision paralysis. Like if you see opportunities everywhere, sometimes it can be hard to choose like where to go or what opportunity to take, because you're just so excited by every opportunity. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, and then we have 2 levels left. So level 6 is really categorized by, this is an extremely high anabolic energy level. It's really categorized by openness and flow. Like, you know, when people say, oh, I was really in the flow, they're in level 6. So it's all about synergy and connection and intuition and wisdom. It's when you feel incredibly intuitive, you feel really connected to people on kind of a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
You feel really creative, and you just get in those, those creative modes where you're just like in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's level 6. I'm hearing Kelly, so I'm assuming you've experienced this. So great positive associations with level 6 are that, I mean, who wouldn't want to be in this level energy, right? Like, you're seeing opportunities, you're connecting with people, you're non-judgmental. Basically all of the greatest like visionaries in our world resonate most at level 6. Possible downsides of level 6 are that, because you're so intuitive and kind of just in the flow of things, you can seem a little bit aloof at times. But that's kind of really the only potential downside. And then lastly, level 7. So level 7 is something that nobody on earth can resonate at all the time. But we all have the ability to resonate at level 7. And with time and sort of awareness, we can resonate at level 7 more and more. So at level 7, you have like complete lack of judgment, lack of fear. You have unconditional love and absolute passion for everything. It's kind of like that situation of like, what even is real? Like, you're on such a higher plane that you can actually see and access all of the different levels of energy at will. So someone told me a story once about that really, I think, encapsulates level 7, where they were at their grandmother's bedside as she was dying. And, they felt obviously sad, but they also felt so kind of connected to the universe, connected to everyone else in the room, connected to the process of death and life. And they were able to, in that moment, see what all of the different energy levels would be and access any of them at any given time. And also just feel kind of like I almost want to say like above reality. Does that make any sense?
It's really
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
Okay. So benefits of level 7 are that you're just in a total state of complete non-judgment and absolute passion and unconditional love. Downsides potentially of level 7, there really are not many. The one I can think of is that you kind of have this like, what even is real, which can kind of be, if you're in that state too much, that can be a bit of a detractor to reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those are the 7 energy levels, and those are how they show up in people. Do you guys have questions about those so far?
I have one question on the level 6. Why would you say that person's downside would be to be being aloof
Good question.
or alone? Is that something has to do with being being in solitude as well?
Not necessarily, because actually that's a great question, because level 6 is categorized by deep connection with people. But I think sometimes when you're in the flow, if someone comes to you with like a level 2 attitude, you might just be like, oh, okay, and like keep going about your flow. So I think, right. So I think you can sometimes come across as aloof because you're in this like creation mode, and you're really not focused on, the 5 levels below you, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but can come across as you don't necessarily care about like the emotions of others.
I see. Yeah, makes sense.
Good question. Other questions?
Okay. I see. No.
No, go ahead.
No, I see shaking head, so none.
Oh,
We're good.
okay.
We can go.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So the exercise I want to do, and I know, Kelly, we have like 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to curtail it a little bit. But what I want to make sure to teach you guys is that we can find each level of energy in any situation as long as we're aware of it. So living day to day with a chronic condition, illness, or pain can bring a lot of level 1 and 2 energy. Like I said, for me, I was pretty constantly in levels 1 and 2 about my illness. That didn't mean I was always in levels 1 and 2 about everything, but it did mean, again, that finger in the ribs. Like I, even when I was having fun, I was constantly aware of my pain. Like, if you asked me about any single memory from the decade or more before my first surgery, my first thought would not have been how much fun I had or how wonderful it was. My very first thought would have been, and still is in memory, about how much pain I was in that day. I can usually remember what I was wearing because of how much pain I was in and how uncomfortable I was. So having a chronic condition is like that constant finger in the ribs, where there's just this thing drawing you down into levels 1 and 2 a lot. Even if you're happy, even if you're able to access anabolic energy, there's that constant finger in the ribs.
Mhm.
So one thing I work with people is how you can tap into the higher anabolic levels of energy when you have a chronic condition, because it's draining. It's so draining to constantly feel that finger in the ribs, to constantly feel like you don't have control of the situation. And so this tool, this exercise we're going to do is to help you realize that in any given moment, if you're feeling that finger in the ribs, if you're feeling like, oh my God, I just am so drained, I have no control over this situation, you can actually go through this exercise and shift your energy. So, for example, one example of how to access a different level of energy about a chronic condition is that I actually personally feel that my chronic condition gives me so much empathy for other people. Like, I think I bring a lot of benefit to people who I talk to who have chronic conditions, because they can tell that I understand how much it sucks sometimes and how hard it can be and how isolating it can be. And so that's actually me bringing level 4 energy, right? Like, I care so much about that. I have a lot of empathy for people. And so my chronic condition gave that to me. So that's an example of taking a situation where I might otherwise have 1 or 2 level energy and seeing that it also brings me level 4 energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So now, whoops, sorry, we're going to stay on the screen. Now we're going to do the exercise. So again, we're going to try to do this in a little bit of a quicker way, but I want you to think about, and I'm going to go back actually here so you can see the levels. Think about the issue that you brought to the conversation today. I want you to just like write down or think about this situation at level 1. So when, Catherine, for example, when you think about your insomnia, what is the level 1 energy you have around that?
Oh, it's very high, I would say. The idea that there's nothing you can do, nothing's gonna work, why even try? You're just kind of doomed.
Right. That was so easy for you to access, right? It was like right there, which is
Very
normal.
much resonates.
Yep, which is normal for something that's high stress, that's causing you a lot of like strife in your life.
Yeah.
Can you, if you don't mind, if you're comfortable, what is your level 2 energy around it?
You know, it's funny because actually level 2 is the one, you'd think level 1, but actually level 2 is one spoke to me, because it's like, it's easy to feel like, oh, everyone has it easier than I do. Kind of get into this like resentment of other people who, you perceive having it easier than you and won't understand. And, cruelly schedule 8 a.m. meetings, just most sadistic act of all time. So yeah, I think it's easy to turn from kind of self-pity to this kind of aggrieved anger at other people for having what seems like an easier time of it.
Yes, that is exactly right. That's an amazing example. Thank you for sharing that. Like, yeah, like, why don't they understand? Like, they don't have to deal with this. I'm the only one that has to, why do they know I have trouble sleeping? Why would they expect me to come at 8 a.m.? Like, that's an amazing example of how level 2 can be so close to the surface around a chronic challenge like insomnia. So, what the challenge of this exercise is, because right, we said that level 1 and 2 are like right there. They're so easy. What the challenge of this exercise is, how do you find levels 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 around your insomnia, for example, Catherine? So I don't know if you guys want to talk this through, since we only have a couple minutes. Normally I would have us kind of like go away for a couple minutes and write, but I'm thinking actually maybe talking it through in the moment might be helpful. Are you guys open to that?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Okay. So Catherine, do you mind if I keep using you as our example?
I'm happy to serve.
Thank you. That's amazing. Okay. So what might level 3 look like around your insomnia?
I mean, this is what they always tell you, right? Like, you just have to kind of not stress. Don't look at the clock. It's out of your hands, but not in a victim-y way, just in a kind of letting go for the universe way. Like, it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. Trusting that you can manage, looking to the past, like, okay, I've managed to do really well at work that day or on that project without a whole lot of sleep in me. So kind of having that feeling of it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that's great. Like, yeah, it is what it is. I will figure it out no matter what.
Yeah.
How about like things that you take responsibility for in terms of, I don't know, do you think about, oh, well, if I, try to go to bed at a certain time, that's me doing as much as I can for that situation.
I think they do, like, okay, you have some strategies, and maybe they'll work, or maybe they won't, but like, you're going to give it a shot and take a more active role than, I don't know, wallowing
Yes,
wallowing in pity and anxiety.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you're doing what you can. You are taking the steps that you feel like you can take, and the situation is what it is, and you'll kind of figure it out. How is that a little different than levels 1 and 2?
I feel like you don't feel so stuck. Like, it's not that it's your problem's gone, but it's not this I don't know, you don't feel like just like there's nothing you can do. You're completely powerless. There's not that kind of swirl of anger and hurt. I don't know. It's calming having some sort of sense of ownership over it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can almost hear in your voice like a little bit more of it sounds more practical. Like, yep, this just is. I have some ownership. I'm gonna do everything I can. It sounds much more matter of fact, your voice, than when you were talking about the levels 1 and 2.
I feel that way just talking about it, honestly. It's interesting that it's reflected in my voice.
Yeah, so that is your energy just starting to shift a little bit. And our energy is reflected in how we're talking about these energy levels, obviously. So that way that you're feeling is your energy starting to shift into a more anabolic space. So are you open to thinking through what level 4 on this would be?
I definitely am. Feels like I'm on a ladder.
Okay, let's do it. What would level 4 be?
I think having, in this case, it's really, well, self-compassion. Like, okay, things are rough. It's all right. But also having this idea that, like, I think I struggle sometimes knowing that most people hide their struggles. All right, maybe I do have this unique thing, not unique, but a thing I struggle with more than a lot of my friends, but they have their own things going on that are worse, same, better, doesn't matter. And just kind of feeling more like, we're all in this together. Maybe this person didn't show me like the most perfect form of care in this day, but they might tomorrow. And yeah, and be more patient with myself too. Like, you know, there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. It's all right. Just be more, yeah, kind of careful with yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Self-compassion and empathy, it sounds like, for others potentially going through other things, awareness that they're probably not trying to harm you. How does that feel different in your body?
I feel like I can actually feel myself relaxing a little bit, like not holding so much and like shoulders and tension. Just um yeah, and it feels not so isolating. I mean, anger level 2, I think anger, right, is so you just feel like you're alone. There's no one who could understand you. So just kind of thinking through this, it's kind of comforting knowing that. I mean, it's sad that your friends are struggling, but also that there's a sense of camaraderie and that we've all got some struggles, and maybe I'm not seeing all their struggles, but we're on it together a little bit.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, what about level 5?
This is interesting. Reconciliation, peace, acceptance, working together. I feel like I
And you've
struggle. The
got
other ones kind of registered with me immediately. This one I feel,
a little struggle with?
yeah, I don't feel like it fits quite as neatly for me. Maybe it's just my not understanding level 5 as clearly as the other ones.
Yeah, that's okay. So remember that level 5 is like you see opportunities everywhere, and it's like a win-win situation.
Right.
Hmm.
I mean,
So,
I think it would help to reframe the idea that it's not all bad. Like, well, if I
mhm.
look over the course of my life, there's been great things that have happened to me on nights that I, you know, can't sleep. I have had, you know, creative moments, I've read fabulous novels, and there's kind of a mixed bag, honestly. And it's, yeah, it hasn't just been a source of stress and anxiety and resentment, all the things I was relying on before. There's been some unexpected advantages of it too. I feel like it's made me more resilient in some ways, which has been good.
Mhm. Yeah, I think, wow, I think the thing that you said last actually really was so cool. Like, it's, I heard you say it's made you more resilient. So that's finding a real opportunity, positive win, right, in a difficult situation. That is great level 5 energy. I think also what I heard you say was, you've read some great novels and had some creative energy. Yeah, like that's seeing the win in the situation. Some people, I can think of another response at level 5 around insomnia being like, well, there's so much opportunity to find the answer. And for some people that might not resonate, and that's okay, but like that is a different kind of opportunity that someone might see.
That's interesting. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, how about level 6?
Level 6, joy habit. I mean, I guess I was getting to a little bit in the last one, just that there is like unexpected moments that is fabulous, right? When you're like up at night and everyone else is asleep, there's no work emails coming in, everything is quiet. You know, maybe there's a storm you can listen to. I do feel like there's something really creative about the night and having that. I'm a pretty people person, you know, extrovert, so it kind of forces me, I think, sometimes to spend time with myself, with my thoughts that I probably would not choose to of my own initiative.
Yeah. Can I ask you how you're feeling right now? Because your voice really seemed to shift there.
I'm feeling good. I feel I have a lot of energy despite it being very bleak, gray, rainy weather outside.
I think
And
that yeah.
Katie, I
No, it's
could
just
see
funny to
that
think about
three.
that.
Yeah, I could see
Talking
your
about it really brings
face and
brings
just
it closer.
also smiling about it. And then when I, about, thinking about the experience, and if I can just share what I'm
Please.
doing, that I think she's not aware that she's kind of meditating, because that helps me. And when I wake up in the middle of the night, I kind of meditate. It's so the thoughts are no longer rambling. And then I feel better. I mean, I feel when I wake up, I really feel better and I still have energy. Didn't feel like I only have 5 hours of sleep. So I don't know
Yeah.
if that helps.
That's so interesting, Kelly. I feel like actually you might have just brought us in a little bit to level 7. Like when you wake up at night and you meditate. So you're almost like, again, that sort of higher plane of like I have, complete unconditional love. What is everything? What is anything? It is really characterized with meditation sometimes as well. So yeah, I think between you guys, you really just sort of encapsulated how insomnia, which is a terrible condition a lot of people deal with, at times can bring you level 6 and level 7 energy. And that if you actually really think about it, you can find the level 6 and level 7 energy in your situation.
Hmm.
Wow,
That
that's
was
so
really interesting.
cool.
I didn't look at the meditative aspect of it, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So we only have a minute, but like, can you guys tell me even just a quick takeaway or surprising thing you found during that exercise?
I am honestly stunned how just talking, I mean, we have what, like 4 minutes?
Yeah.
Like, I honestly feel I could feel my energy shift and my attitude, my mood a little bit, even like just walking, just quickly kind of going through them. I've kind of, yeah, it's really surprising to me that it feels like a hack. Like, what a great way to go about reframing some of these things that you're struggling with.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's I think it's a really cool tool because you can actively feel yourself just by talking and thinking. Um, you can feel your energy shift. That's the great thing about speaking and thinking about these different levels of energy, bring these different levels of energy to you. So it's a really cool way if you're in a moment of like deep pain or just really struggling with the condition to kind of go through this ladder and shift your energy just in that moment. Kelly, how about you?
Yeah, it's just fascinating too to hear Catherine just go through that. I wasn't sure how she's able to like shift that level of energy by talking. Like, if you, so great job for picking her as an example, but I could relate to what she's saying. And wow, yeah, that's amazing. And then that, like you said, awareness is key. And if only people could, utilize this more often or even know it, that it's possible for you to shift your energy by reframing it and looking at it a different lens. And of course, working with someone like Katie as a coach. That's fantastic. It's just so fascinating, this work that you guys do.
Thanks. Yeah, so I hope that was helpful and informative for people. And like I said at the beginning, the work I do with coaching people is all about sort of deepening that even further. And I'm just gonna end by putting up my contact information in case people who are looking at the recording want to get in touch with me, even just to learn more about this exercise that we did today, or how coaching can help deepen this kind of thinking.
Sweet. Thank you very much, Katie, for your time. And Catherine, thanks for joining us live and sharing your, the exercise.
Yeah, thanks,
Honestly, it was
Catherine.
a
Really
very
appreciate it.
productive way to, sorry, I just talked over you. It was really productive way, honestly, an hour. And I feel like I've gained a lot with not putting much time in. So thanks to both of you.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you, and have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.